Hello everyone, this is Ronnie and I wanted to do a little video of basic music, very basic simple music theory for songwriters, especially with the guitar, but applies for all instruments. And so one of the things you really need to know if you want to write your own music is you need to understand really the notes of the major scale and the chords of the major scale. Now some people might not know what chords are, so I don't want to go too advanced. But most music, if you're writing especially pop music, Western style music, a lot of it uses either the major scale or the pentatonic scale. These scales are basically sequences of notes that appear in music. So we've identified 12 notes in music and we've labeled them with alphabetical terms, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and there's also some what is called incidentals. I don't know why they give them a different name. I don't know why they didn't just go A, B, C, D, E, F, G and then keep going for 12 notes, but there's sharps and flats. And as soon as you start going into it, it gets more complicated. So if you go on a piano basically and you play the white keys, that's the naturals. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And it just runs up the fretboard like that. So it doesn't keep going, it goes back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it goes back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And that's what's called different octaves. So the same note is just the same note, but it's an octave above. Okay, all very complicated now. And the white notes of the piano are the C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. That's the C major scale. It sounds like this. You've probably heard that sequence before. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Every note has a major scale attached to it. So that's obviously C, but if you go up, you end up at C sharp. So you have an entire other scale, an entire other key. And that's what you call a key, because you play a song in a key within that range of notes. Up to D, up to E flat, D sharp. Okay, so the vast majority of music that you hear, the melody of the music and the chords or the harmony of the music is contained basically within the major scale, and will sometimes modulate, move out of the major scale or move out of a particular key. But the important thing here is for you to focus on what gets you, what makes the biggest impact for you. Understanding all sorts of random, little known or very underutilized concepts or scales and things like that is fine and is worth working on, but it's worth working on this first, the major scale, because it's by far the biggest part of music that you'll be playing is within the major scale. So and millions of songs, the key, the melody of the song can be entirely played within the pattern of the major scale. And if you want to improvise, make up your own music, if you know the scale, then you can start playing around with the notes. And you can find something and you can play around with that. And that's improvising, but it's also what you would do really if you were writing. Doesn't sound that good, does it? That doesn't sound that good. So it all is within the same thing. So if I go outside of that, so instead of going, now it's making no sense, right? Now it's kind of, so there's at least some kind of sense. And I'm just making this up because I'm just using the scale. make up melodies that kind of make musical sense, sound good to the ear, just by playing around with the notes within a particular scale. So anyway, now how do you, the next stage is to understand the chords that make up a major scale, the chords within the major keys. That's basically essential for you to learn a bunch of those if you're a guitar player or piano player or whatever, writing songs. Now, the way that works, a little bit of theory behind it, you don't need to fully understand all this, but the chords are made up. So if we go through the major scale, we can put numbers to the notes: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the 8th is really just going back to the first note. Okay, the first chord of the major scale is in the key of G, which we're in, is G major, and that's made up of the 1st, 3rd, and 5th. When we play those together, we get a major scale. We get the G major chord. But notice what we've done. We've taken the first note, we've then skipped. We've taken the 3rd note, we've then skipped, and we've taken the 5th note. Okay? So we've went, missing out the notes in between. Well, we can go up a note to the A, and we can continue that process. So now we're doing the 2nd, 4th, and 6th. So we went from the 1, 3, 5 to 2. Okay? It's the same thing. We've taken the note, we've skipped, we went to the next note, we've skipped, and we played the next note. We play them together, and we get A minor. We can continue that pattern. We go up to the next note, which is B. So this is how we find the chords of the major scale. But on a guitar, we play these chords differently. So we start with G major, A minor, B minor, then we move to C. Now we can play D or we can play D7. D7 works. Then E minor. The next chord is a little bit more complicated. It would be an F sharp diminished or maybe half diminished. And so it's a bit of a weird chord. And then back to G. Now notice this mirrors this sound. We play those chords in a sequence. Okay? Hopefully you can hear the pattern there. Hopefully you can hear the pattern and hear how that works together. Now you've got some tools there for writing your own music. You've got the scale that you can use for your melody, and you've got the chords that you can use. Now what you're trying to do is bring those together, is find a melody and find the chords that work with it. Generally, if you come up with a melody, there's usually an obvious sequence of chords, or maybe you need to develop an ear for the obvious sequence of chords that goes with it. So you might be playing around with different melodies, or you might want to start off with trying to find a chord sequence. It's your own preference there. I like trying to find a melody first because the chords come almost naturally. Whereas with the chords, you have to try and find a melody that works, and that can be a bit more difficult. But you can work around with both. I tend to think the best way is to maybe play some chords and try and come up with a melody, and that's you getting started. So that's some basics stuff for beginners. You can also go to And as a guitar player or as a piano player or whatever, you should be learning at least a few different keys, all the chords within the major scale within those keys. So you've got G, but you could also do C. And D. Okay. Now, if we break those down a little bit more, we can break it down and make it simpler, is that for a lot of music it will be the 3 major chords and maybe 1 or 2 minor chords that make up a lot of music and a lot of songs. A lot of songs just use what you call the in the key of G would be G, C, D, E minor. Makes up a huge amount of a lot of songs. So instead of you don't have to go endlessly into music theory. You can literally learn a few chords and you're on your way to learning to write more of your own music. And yeah, so thank you for watching the video today. That's probably enough for this video. And you can let me know in the comments below if any of this has made sense, or if it didn't make sense, or if you've got some questions about it, or if you want me to make another video on this kind of topic, because I've got some thoughts about this. And if you want to subscribe to the channel to learn more, I've also got some of my own music here. So thank you for watching and listening, and maybe seeing you in the next video. Thank you.